Hey guys, what is up? Today's video is actually very interesting because I'm going to talk about the stages of non-dual recognition or the journey, the phases in the journey of recognizing non-duality. And this is very interesting because wherever you are in this journey, I'm going to give you certain pointers which can help you go ahead. Okay? And this is also going to eliminate a lot of misconceptions which you have towards this journey and kind of align you on the path better. And I know this video is about non-duality, the reason you guys come to this channel, and I keep making videos about self-esteem and whatnot. But okay, let's start. So there is this very interesting tweet that if you know who Joe Hudson is, he is one of the leaders in spirituality who works with big companies like Apple, OpenAI and shit and stuff, etc. Okay, and he helps their team self-actualize, get emotionally integrated, align with universal consciousness, and also get non-dual experiences. So he shared this tweet and he said, "Someone asked me to describe the journey of non-duality recently, and here is my experience of it. And I found this so interesting. I found this so good. The step one is search for non-dual consciousness. Once you know that it can be achieved, you have this inner fire within you. Okay, and the only thing I want to say about this is that if your fire cannot be extinguished by the external circumstances, then there is no reason for you to not get it. You are going to get it 100%. Okay, if your fire isn't strong enough right now, you might not get it, but you might get it in the future where your fire is strong. Okay, so ask yourself, are you ready to risk everything for awareness? Is it that important to you? That's why I suggest people start young, because there is really not a lot of things to risk, right, when you're young, and also if you're rich. The second thing is experience non-duality and not know it. So what this is that non-duality is actually present all the time. Okay, once your mind is clear enough and your thoughts are like this, boing, 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 what this means is that you do not get lost in the thought streams, and there are gaps within your thought, and naturally and effortlessly you fall into spaces where your mind is still. You're not thinking anything. That time, that experience is actually a non-dual experience. You just don't know it because you immediately label your experience as somebody experiencing it. There is this I in my body and mind experiencing this experience. There are a lot of filters over your experience, which actually don't let you recognize non-duality. That is a step two. Step three is experiencing non-duality and know it. Okay? Pretty straightforward. You were persistent with your practice. You surrendered. Okay, so let me actually expand on the step two, between the step two and step three. So the more you actually strive towards getting this non-dual realization, okay, the more filters and more activities of mind you're putting on your experience of pure consciousness or pure non-duality. Okay, the more there are patterns in your head trying to recognize what non-duality is, the more you're moving further away from it. Okay, as I told you, you experience non-duality and you just don't know it. You don't know it because there is this striving for knowing it. Okay, and you're actually running away from your experience right now. You think that this experience is already the experience of separateness, and you want to eliminate this experience of separateness. You want to have an experience of oneness, but you don't know that this experience of separateness is actually oneness. You're just labeling it as an experience of separateness. Okay? Let me give you an example. In a lake with muddy water, can you actually see the ground if the water is continuously moving? To see the ground, you try to push away the mud, you try to push away the dirt, but that pushing just reinforces more movement in the water. Sorry, it actually reinforces just movement in the water, makes the water more muddy. The same thing we do with trying to recognize non-duality. The water is clear, you just need to give it time so that the mud rests on the bottom. And then the bottom is visible, the water is clear. What we do is our mind naturally falls into the state of stillness, and then we try to add on to it. We try to push away the impurities which aren't even there. Okay? We try to get away from these labels and get away from this belief that this is the separate experience. This is not the experience of oneness. We try to push that away. What that does is it reinforces the mud, keeps you stuck, keeps the water from getting clean. Okay, so what happens when you give up? Usually between the step 2 and step 3, what happens is that you give up. You're so frustrated that nothing I do gets me there. Maybe you already recognize that you're not your mind. Maybe you already recognize that you're not your body. But you're like so frustrated that you cannot experience yourself as the world. You cannot have this experience of oneness. You get so frustrated that you just give up. And then you just let the world do its thing. You just surrender. And in that giving up, in that surrender, the water, the muddy water, it settles down. And then the water becomes clear. The light goes down to the bottom of the lake. And then the non-dual experience is recognized. Okay? Cool. The step 4 is one persistent non-dual consciousness. So, after the recognition, this is a misconception that once you know what non-duality is, now you're enlightened. Now everything is one, but it doesn't happen that way. What happens is there is constant fluctuations, which I call oscillation, between recognizing what oneness is and not recognizing what oneness is. And this used to frustrate me so much, because once you know that you can fly and the next day your ability is taken away from you, feels like hell. So, one day you're like on the bank of a river and then watching the scenery and experiencing yourself as one with everything, and then suddenly it's gone and you cannot see yourself as one. You feel this separateness. Okay? And this is a natural process. It fluctuates. That is the step 4. One persistent, non-dual consciousness. The step 5 is all is, all was, all fluctuates, persistence. In the step 5, there is a deeper level of surrender. So you recognize that I had an attachment to experiencing oneness. But there shouldn't be any attachment of any kind. Oneness or not, you should accept it. You should accept your experience. You should accept consciousness as it is. As you try to always, once you're not recognizing oneness, you're always trying to self-inquire. You're always trying to force the practices which actually helped you recognize oneness. Again, you're moving the water. Again, you're moving the mud. You're getting far away from that recognition. And I actually made a video about this, so you can watch that. So you're actually moving far away from the recognition. The more you try to experience oneness again and again, So later you just like, okay, I give up again. I'm not trying to get oneness in my hands. I'm not attached to it. Every experience is just pure consciousness, even with the feeling of me not recognizing oneness. Okay, and as you do this, there is this trust that builds up in you. And that trust and faith actually kind of keeps dissolving the subject object relationship which you have towards the world. And then the recognition of oneness gets stronger and stronger. Because even when you think that this is not the experience of oneness, that experience is completely accepted. And there is no different identity resisting to it. That is accepted. And when everything is surrendered, there is no different entity which you call I to resist it. So the division is already dissolved. Everything is one again. Okay? This is kind of nuanced concept, guys. If you don't understand it, you will get it soon. Then, ignorance of my new identity as awake. People think as you recognize oneness, you're now completely pure, but that is obviously not true. You're not completely pure, guys. After you get awake, there are more impurities which come to the surface to get healed because now you can handle it. Now everything is kind of impersonal. Now you can handle these intense emotions. Now you can handle all this trauma and all this pain that you have inside of you. Now you are able to face the things which you could not have faced when you had this strong belief that you were the ego. Okay, now you have a glimpse of what the absolute is. You can recognize what the absolute is. So you have the power and strength to actually deal with your insecurities, to actually deal with the impurities. Even in Buddhism, there are 4 stages of awakening, and the first stage is only the dissolution of separate self, or seeing through the illusion of separate self. Shrotapanna, or stream entry. The second one is Sadagami, the third one is Anagami, fourth one is Arahant. Arahant is like, okay, now you're completely pure. Now you're enlightened. That is an Arahant, okay? But the first step out of the 4 steps is only the dissolution of the sense of self, or seeing through the illusion of the sense of self. And then in the later stages, there are 10 fetters or 10 impurities which come up and are released. Okay? So, awakening is not enlightenment. Awakening is not the end point. It is the start of the real journey. Okay? Whew. So, the step 7 is identified as awake and can see it. Now you are like, okay, I was identifying as being awake and I had this subtle pride behind it, and now I can see it. Just recognizing that, okay, I had this pattern running within me and calling myself awake, feeling superior to others. Maybe I have to be aware of it. Maybe let's not get this pattern running in our psyche, okay? And then the step 8 is awake is seen through less identity. Okay, so even less identity of being awake. I don't know what else. Non-dual is a concept that makes so step 9 is non-duality is a concept that makes no sense. It is both a religion or myth describing an interpretation of an event given significance by a narcissistic identity. Second, a necessary, freeing, and wildly beautiful step. So it is like, even I thought about this. It's like all the concepts about oneness, all the concepts about non-duality, everything is one. It is true, But it is not true. All of those were just pointers. The reality cannot be described by those pointers. Those are just pointers pointing you towards reality, but the reality, the experience of the present moment is not that. Okay? It is not that. All these concepts were fake. They weren't fake, they were just pointers. They were not the truth. So, oneness, non duality doesn't make sense. It's like it is just this, and I don't know. Okay, I don't know what this is. But the pointers do make sense, but they don't make sense. I don't know. I don't know how else to describe it. But if you guys are also experiencing this, then it is a natural step. It doesn't mean that your awakening was fake. Okay, doesn't mean that you were imagining, your ego was imagining it. And the second thing is, it was a necessary, freeing, and wildly beautiful step. Yeah, it's like you were at this point and you went all the way, you made all this journey to come return to this point again. It was always this. It was always this experience before you started this journey. But to see what this movement actually was, and to actually recognize the beauty of this movement, you had to take the detour. You had to take the unnecessary step. Go on this big journey, which was an illusion, to come back to this movement and see, bro, this movement is all there is. And have this support of the absolute behind your back. Okay? And live a normal human life. The step 10 is natural and ordinary. Non-duality is as forgotten as breathing and as ordinary as human walking. It is not considered unless asked about. After that, you're like, yeah, it was all, I don't know. It was all nothing. And then after some time, you're like, I don't want to bother seeing if I'm having this non-dual experience or not. I know this is the truth. I know whatever experience I have is the truth. I know when I resist it, I know when I try to get something else, it's when there is separation. So you understand the gist of the universe from this journey, okay? So that you can actually sit in this moment and have this realm of absolute behind you, so that you're not shaken by the world, so that everything the world does, there is this sense of okayness, there is this sense of peace. And if you have to, it's like forgotten, man. Like you try to focus more on your human activities. Again, you start living as human. There is no fixation on not living as human. There is not this fixation of always like being this, not being a human, being one. No fixation about it. But you know that everything is one. You know that this is oneness. Okay? And then as your journey progresses, the intensity of the feeling or the recognition of non-duality gets stronger. But you're not thinking about it. You are surrendered, you live a human life, you forget about non-duality and you keep on moving. Okay? Yeah. And like if somebody, you want to give pointers to somebody, you can still close your eyes, experience non-duality, and have something to say about it. So that was everything for this video, bro. And hope you like it. Hope you enjoy it. See ya. Bye.